The other day I was just sitting at home minding my own business when all of a sudden I got a ring at the doorbell, and I went outside and there was a package sitting there from RIDGID. And inside there was this note that said, "Dear Aaron, your wife informed us that you have been really dragging your feet and that it's time to remodel your pantry. We hope this new 6-quart NXT dry backpack vac will help you tackle the project. Go Team RIDGID." So I guess today I'm going to be tackling this disaster of a pantry and making it into something that's more functional for us. There's a couple major issues with this pantry. Number one, the shelves are way too long and they sag because they're not supported. Number two, the shelves are pretty shallow, so it doesn't maximize the use of the space. And number three, it's just plain ugly. So let's fix all that. Here's what I came up with for a basic design. The idea is to make smaller shelves more compartmentalized so that it's easier to organize, and we want to clear some counter space because my wife hates having the microwave on the counter, so I want to put the microwave inside the pantry as well. So the first thing I need to do is empty out this pantry and break up the shelves. Lucky for you, I'm super duper fast. Now here you get the first look at some of the awesome wall textures that my house has. In this one, they happen to have two textures in one space, but I don't really feel like tackling that right now, so we're just going to deal with it since it's inside the closet. I'll deal with the rest of it later. My original design called for 5 shelves, but because these are already in place and they have a good amount of storage to them, I decided to leave the support brackets in place, and I'm just going to cut out the middle so that I can build my little cabinet that goes inside. Lucky for me, I've got this cool new backpack vac, which is actually perfect because I can use it as a little portable dust collector. I can clean out the closet with it. Lots of practical uses. It just slaps on your back. It's got a bunch of little attachments. It's really easy to use. I'm a big fan so far. Not to mention, it makes me feel like a Ghostbuster. To build out the new shelving in the cabinet, I'm going to be using some melamine. I like melamine for closet builds because it saves you a lot of time in painting and it's pretty durable. It's not the best material to work with a lot of times because it can chip and cause a little bit of a headache, but for this type of application, I really like to use melamine. This is probably my favorite use of the backpack vac, and it allows me to have a portable dust collector for this track saw, which is pretty cool. I had to duct tape the hose to the saw, which worked fine for this, but I'm thinking about maybe 3D printing some kind of magnetic release or something later on so that I can have a quick attachment, because this is actually really functional. Anytime I'm building cabinets, I prefer not to build them in place because it's a lot harder, it takes longer, but because I had to deal with the low clearance of the door opening, I didn't really have a choice in this case. So I'm just getting the main uprights installed, and then I can start working on the shelves. I'm starting with the microwave support shelf, and I'm adding some support brackets because it's going to have a little bit of extra weight to it. Now, when you're using melamine, you can't use regular wood glue, so I chose to use some Gorilla Glue, and the key to using Gorilla Glue is to apply the glue on one surface and then get the other piece of material a little bit damp. The moisture helps it cure and expand. It's also why you have to try and keep the cap on as much as possible when you're not using it, because if it's humid where you're building, it can actually start to dry out rather quickly. As I mentioned before, I decided to leave the shelf supports in place for the sides, so I cut a bunch of shelves and installed those in place and locked everything together so it was nice and tight. I didn't really want to see more supports on the inside, so I decided to use screws and brad nails instead of adding another support on the side. So with most of the shelves and stuff in place, here's what it looks like. Now the fortunate thing is that there's an electrical outlet on the back wall. The unfortunate thing is it's about 3 inches to the wrong side of where the microwave's going to be. Now could I have moved it over a couple inches? Yeah, but it would have required opening up the wall, adding a little extension to the wiring, and a lot of extra work. Because of that, I decided to just drill a hole in the back of the cabinet so that I could pass the power cord over to where the current electrical outlet is. Now, part of our complaint with the old pantry is that the shelves were too shallow, but by making it really deep, then you run into the issue of having things being buried in the back. And my solution for that is to make everything as accessible as possible by using some full extension drawer slides and utilizing some Lazy Susan things that I picked up from the Container Store. So once I had all the hardware installed, I could measure and then build a bunch of drawer boxes to go in the bottom of the middle cabinet, and then get them mocked up in place. I decided to make a bunch of different size drawers, starting with the smallest one at the top and then working its way down bigger and bigger as you get down to the bottom. Once those were all mocked up, then I could make the drawer fronts out of some MDF and get those installed on the front of the drawer boxes. Finally, once everything was dry fit, then I could take it apart and hit it with a couple coats of semi-gloss scuff-resistant paint, do some last-minute touch-ups with some screw caps, and then get everything put back together and organized. But before I call this a done deal, there's one last thing that I need to add just for me. You see, my wife is gluten-free, and if my son knows that there's candy in the pantry, he'll never stop until he finds it. So I've decided to make myself a little candy stash with the best candy known to man, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. And if you don't like Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, I'm sorry for whoever hurt you as a child. So I figure if I disguise my candy stash as a container of breadcrumbs, neither my wife nor my son will ever take a look at it. And here's the finished product. I'm super happy with the way this thing turned out. It's got a ton of storage. In fact, we got a lot more space than I thought we had. And for a standard coat closet style pantry, I can't think of a much better way to organize it. So I want to take a quick second and say thank you to RIDGID for making this video possible. And if you guys are interested in checking out the 6-quart NXT backpack vac, I'll leave an affiliate link for where you can find it down in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.